Welcome to Unity Hub, the command center for all your Unity projects. Let's hit New Project to get started. Give it a moment to load, and then select the 2D template since we're diving into a 2D style game today. Now, let's name your project. I recommend using underscores or dashes instead of spaces to keep things neat. Choose where you'd like to save your project, and then let Unity work its magic to set up your game development playground. It'll just take a few moments, so hang tight. And just like that, our project is ready to roll. You'll see our setup includes the hierarchy panel, project folders, the inspector, and the viewport. All the essentials. I like to kick things off by dragging the game window to the bottom of the screen so we can get a real-time preview of our game's look and feel. Next, let's click on the camera in the hierarchy. Here's a little trick. Personalize your game by changing the camera's background color to a shade that matches your vision. Let your creativity lead the way. Now that we've set the stage, it's time to get organized. Let's create some folders by right-clicking in the Assets panel to keep our project tidy. We'll need one for graphics. That's where all our visual elements will live. Then, a prefabs folder for objects we'll reuse. And of course, a scripts folder to store our code. It's all about having a place for everything, and everything in its place. If you're eager to jump straight into the visuals and functionality, I've got you covered. Head over to my website. There's a link right in the description below. Once you're there, hit download now, pop in your email, and just like that, a free package with all the graphics and scripts will be on its way to you. You'll get an email, and the files will also start downloading automatically. Easy peasy. And hey, we're sprucing up the website to make resources like this even more accessible to you in the future. So keep an eye out for that. Once you've snagged the files from my website, let's bring them into Unity. Open up the graphics folder right there in your project panel. Then, navigate to the location where you downloaded the graphics. It's as simple as dragging and dropping them into Unity. Do the same with the scripts. Just drag and drop them into the scripts folder. Unity might take a moment to import and process everything, so give it a little time. Patience is key. Unity is doing the heavy lifting to set you up for success. All our elements are now in the mix, and it's game building time. Let's shape our environment. Right-click in the hierarchy panel, hover over a 2D object. Then select Sprite and choose Square. We'll call this our tile. Now, dive into the graphics folder, find the quad light sprite, and simply drag it to the sprite renderer of our tile in the inspector. Just like that, our environment begins to take on character and color. Next, let's expand our environment. Select the tile you just created and hit Ctrl-D to duplicate it. Press W to switch to the Move tool, and while holding down Ctrl, slide the new tile right beside the first one. This helps keep our placement precise. Now, let's mix things up a bit by changing this new tile's sprite to the dark sprite, adding a bit of variety to your scene. Let's continue shaping our game world by duplicating the tiles to fill out the environment. You can keep using the same method. Select a tile, duplicate it with Ctrl-D, and position it holding the Control key. For a touch of detail, consider changing the sprite of the tiles at the bottom left and right corners to the round corners sprite, giving our layout a smoother, more finished look. To keep our scene tidy, let's group our tiles together. First, create an empty game object and name it Squares. Now, simply drag all your tile objects into this new game object. It's a great way to maintain order as we build more complex scenes. Next, for the weapon, we'll follow a similar process as we did with the tiles. Create a new square sprite, but this time, switch the sprite in the sprite renderer to our weapon graphic. This will visually transform our simple square into the weapon for our game. Next, we'll integrate scripts to bring our game mechanics to life. Start by creating a new empty game object and name it Game Manager. Now grab the enemy spawner script from our files and drag it onto this game object in the Unity editor to assign it. For our weapon, attach both the player and shooting scripts to enhance its functionality. Now, let's craft our bullet. Navigate to the Sprites section, select Capsule for its shape, and then adjust its appearance to fit the style you want for your game. We'll also organize our assets better by creating a new folder named Materials. In this folder, create a new material and apply it to our bullet to give it the desired visual flair. The final touch? Drag the bullet game object from our hierarchy into the prefabs folder to make it reusable across the game. Once that's done, you can remove the original bullet from the hierarchy to keep things clean. As we prepare to connect everything in the editor, there's one final setup step. Create a new empty game object and name it Start Points. Inside this, add another empty game object and call it Start_Point_1. To make these visible and easy to manage in the viewport, let's change its icon in the editor. Now, hold down Control to snap it precisely to the top and middle of the first column in our game layout. Once positioned correctly, duplicate it as many times as needed to create all the necessary starting points across the gameplay area. Now that we have all our starting points set up, let's duplicate the entire Start Points group. Rename this new group to End Points. Next, move all these points to the bottom of the squares, aligning them where our gameplay will conclude. Although you can rename each endpoint for clarity, I'll leave them as is for the purpose of this tutorial, to keep things straightforward. Before we move on, let's not forget to set up our enemies. Start by creating a new square sprite. Then change the sprite renderer to use our enemy graphic. This will transform the simple square into the menacing foes our player will face. Duplicate it and change for the other enemies. And when this is done, we just need to drag the new enemy game objects to the prefabs folder. Now that our prefabs are ready, let's bring it all together in the Game Manager object. First, head over to the Enemies tab. Open it up and add our newly created enemy prefabs into this list. Next, let's set up the spawn points. Simply drag each start point into the designated spawn point list in the inspector. Follow the same steps for the endpoints. Now, onto the waves. This part is crucial for game dynamics, but we'll dive deeper into that a bit later. For now, let's focus on setting up our weapon. Go to the bullet prefab section and drag our bullet from the prefabs folder into the corresponding field. Then, for the bullet spawn point, create a new empty game object right inside our weapon and position it. Once done, drag this new game object into the bullet spawn point slot in the inspector. Next, let's set the shooting key. Choose any key from the list that feels intuitive. Remember, we want the game to be both interesting and easy to play. Oh, and it looks like we missed something important, applying the bullet script to our bullet prefab. Let's take care of that now to ensure our bullets behave correctly. Also, we need to adjust our enemy prefab slightly. Go ahead and add a tag to them in the Unity editor. This tag will help our game recognize them as enemies, which is crucial for our interaction logic. Before we jump into setting up the wave spawner, let's ensure that our bullets are clearly visible during gameplay. To do this, we'll adjust the layering of our tiles. Simply turn off the 2D view in Unity, and then move the tiles backwards slightly. This adjustment ensures that our bullets will always appear in front of the tiles, keeping the action visible and engaging. Now we reach the final setup step, configuring the waves. In this section, we define how many of each enemy type will appear in each wave. For example, in the first wave, let's include the first two types of enemies, one of the first type and two of the second type. Moving on to the second wave, we'll introduce all three enemy types, spawning 3 of each to ramp up the challenge. The script we've integrated will manage the timing, ensuring each enemy is spawned at regular intervals to keep the gameplay balanced and exciting. Now let's put all our setup to the test. Hit play and see how our game functions with these waves in action. Okay, it looks like we've run into a few issues that need fixing. First, let's enhance our bullet's interaction capability. Add a 2D collider to the bullet, along with a rigid body 2D component. Make sure to set the gravity scale to 0 to prevent the bullet from falling due to gravity, and tick the Is Trigger box to ensure it interacts correctly with other game objects. Next, select the first enemy, hold Shift, and select the last one to group edit them. We'll add a 2D circle collider to each of these enemies and set these colliders as triggers too. This setup will help in detecting collisions smoothly. With these adjustments made, let's run the game again and see how things work now. Amazing! Our game is finally working correctly, and it's looking fantastic. There's a lot more we could add to enhance the experience, like rewarding points, introducing more challenges, or tracking player lives. But for a first game, this is an excellent start. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. And if you want to dive deeper into the code or explore further enhancements, be sure to visit the website. The link is in the description. Dive in, get creative, and keep learning.